Hey miners, welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, the new home of power mining analysis. In today's episode, Anthony Power and I are pleased to welcome back Jason Less. He's the CEO of Riot Platforms to the channel. There's been a number of key updates and developments since our last visit with Jason, not to mention September production results, which were very favorable for Riot. So we've got a lot to talk about. Before we do though, please take a second, hit the like button, you guys. Big help to myself and the channel. If you're not already subscribed, McNallie Money, feel free to join. And let us know in the comments section below if you're currently holding shares of Riot, your thoughts on September results, and these most recent key developments. Now with that being said, let's get into today's interview. Okay, guys, so that's right. Today's visit from Jason Less, CEO of Riot Platforms. A lot to go through, a well-timed visit with September production results just coming out here, Jason. Not to mention, you guys have a new podcast studio, it looks like, there at the Riot headquarters. So welcome back to the channel. Congratulations on September results and appreciate you making the time today.
Thank you, Bryce and Anthony, for having me on as usual. Yeah, we got a new little setup here. We're trying to, like many things in the company, optimize where we can. So optimizing for audio and visual for power mining and analysis now.
Oh, it's looking optimized. We took us about 4 years to get a new microphone and background, so you're doing pretty good over there, Jason.
Good.
Hey, now, first things first, can you walk us through September production results? You just came out with these today alongside many of your other peer miners. Relatively strong month, over 400 Bitcoin being mined, and we're seeing some great images out of Corsicana really starting to take flight there.
Yeah, that was a great month for Riot. I mean, certainly we can do a lot better, but what you see in September is a pretty significant increase month over month here. We mined 412 Bitcoin. That was a 28% increase month over month. We increased our deployed hash rate to 28.2 exahash. That was about a 20% increase month over month. We increased our average operational hash rate to 19.5 exahash. That was about a 35% increase month over month. So really seeing the results that we have been talking about, the results we've been anticipating from both the growth we have going on at Corsicana and the work that's also going on at Rockdale. Now, a couple of things I'll touch on as we go through those numbers to clarify. Our deployed hash rate figure, that is how much hash rate was deployed at the facility at the very end of the month. Of course, in this growth phase, there's miners that are being deployed over the course of the month. And, sometimes it's evenly spread. Sometimes it's more focused towards the end of the month as we push to, hit another milestone towards the end of the month. It's a measurement of hash rate at a point of time. Our average operating hash rate, that is what our average hash rate that was operational over the whole month. So if we're down for power strategy stuff or even down for operational issues, maintenance, whatever, that will take that figure down because we're measuring it over those 30 to 31 days of the month. So it was the last month of ERCOT's 4CP program where we're curtailing often when there's periods of peak demand and we're trying to hit those peaks. So that definitely impacts operating hash rate, our average operating hash rate over the month. But we have such strong momentum here. We're so excited about the results that we're able to show, the progress from August to September. And with all the work we have going on, I think you are going to continue seeing progress month after month here through the end of the year and beyond.
That's great news. And I'm just going back to what Bryce mentioned there. Those photographs of Corsicana, now we're seeing building B2 looks like the external part of that's completed, because that when we got there, that wasn't even in place. I mean, it was just a piece.
When you were there, building B1 was a quarter of the way complete.
It's quarter done, and we could sort of see the progress that B1 was taking place. But I mean, we were only there three months ago, and so that's amazing that the structures there built now. I'm sure that all the internals are being put as you said, but that's really good progress. Yeah. Now, you mentioned about hash rate installed, and obviously when you install a lot of hash rate in B1 during the month, and you have an average hash rate, but we accept that operational hash rate is reflexive of where you should be in terms of Corsicana. However, when we look at the installed hash rate for August in Rockdale, it was 14.7 exahash. That means you had 14.7 at the end of the month. So it's gone up to 15 during the month of September, but you're still 5 exahash short of that figure, which you had installed the previous month. So there's sort of like, yes, you're using your energy strategy. And if we looked at the amount of sales and demand response credits during that period, a lot less than the previous September. I mean, significant less than previous. I think it was like 13 million last year, and it's just over 2 million this year. If I was to sort of like look at 5 exahash, and if I was to say, Hive Digital's a 5 exahash company, they're going to mine about 120 Bitcoin with that there. So me as a sort of like, as a retail shareholder, I'm sort of like wanting to make sure, Riot's producing as much Bitcoin. Can you give us an understanding of that gap there? And I know we've alluded to it in previous podcasts about, you had some of these machines that may have not been optimally working, but we were under the impression there was a lot more machines coming into the site. Can you give us an understanding of curtailment and to understand that gap as a whole rather than just the curtailment part of it?
Yeah, so a lot of unpack there. First, I'll start with your comments around Corsicana. While Corsicana is performing well, it can still perform better. We're still in the early stages of a lot of things there. So there was still some maintenance over the month. And of course, participation in 4CP, even though we don't have a hedge at Corsicana, we're still participating in that 4CP program there. So that site was down during different periods of the month, almost every day, it seems like. And that impacts average operating hash rate. So we're very excited about the results we're seeing at Corsicana, and we're still prioritizing improving those in addition to deploying hash rate. But going back to Rockdale, I think you also saw an increase in operating hash rate month over month. We still do have the 4CP that was occurring that impacts Rockdale's hash rate during the month of September as well, even if we're not generating power sales. So remember the 4CP program, which miners and all sorts of businesses that can in Texas participate in, is you need to shut off in the 4 summer months. So these 4 peak periods, you need to be off during whatever the peak period of demand is in each of those months. Now, you don't always know when that's going to be. So it's not like you have to be there ahead of time. So in order to hit that peak, miners, and I know Riot's not the only one doing it, other miners in Texas clearly participate in this program as well. It's about being good citizens to the grid. And we also, by participating in it, we don't get any money immediately, but we save on transmission cost in the future year. And that's really important. That, adds up to being millions of dollars when you're at significant scale. So while we don't get the results of that reflected in that power credits right away, it is a part of our strategy to supporting the Texas grid. That's how I believe, have been enabled to get this type of capacity. And it's a part of reducing transmission cost in the future year. Now, further on Rockdale, I want to emphasize, as much as Riot has growth going on this year, the number one priority for us is operational excellence, improving that uptime. So we have 2, major initiatives going on at the same time, at the forefront of our minds. At Rockdale, a key part of that has been upgrading and replacing some of those lesser performing models with the M60S model from MicroBT. We are so happy with what we've seen from that. In fact, we have a building at Rockdale that is 100% M60S miners, and that building achieved a 95% plus uptime in the hottest periods of August and September, but the hottest periods were in August, excluding curtailment for power strategy, but in all other operational times, 95% uptime. So we are seeing very encouraging results. We're learning from this. And I think what you'll see is Riot's going to take these lessons, and you'll continue to see improvements at Rockdale Hill through the end of the year. For us, it's both upgrading these models and making some other changes to really optimize that operating environment. So I think like I said, to highlight, you saw progress in operating hash rate from August to September. No more 4CP program going into October here. I think you'll see an improvement in operating hash rate from that alone. But with the other initiatives we have going on, with other stuff we're working on, that is going to continue to improve towards the end of the year. So our goal is to exit this year, not just with a lot of hash rate growth, but showing that operational excellence that we've been focused on. Takes time. Progress has been made, but takes a little more time.
So if you're showing like an installed hash rate now of 28.3, which is a great target to have achieved at your Q3, are you expecting the fact that we're into sort of cooler temperatures now, less curtailment, that you'd expect to be pretty much close to that figure by the end of October? Because if you've got it plugged in, then it's actually operational. It's just a case of it will be down when you're required to turn it down for curtailment, for maybe underclocking or whatever like that. It's just, I mean, I think when we look at all the miners, and a lot of them now, you started to do as well, you put your operational hash rate in. We do see gaps. There's gaps in all of them, but I mean the gap with Riot is considerable. And last year that was obviously put to one side because you were bringing in significant amounts of credits and power sales. I mean, you were earning more in power sales than any miner was earning in Bitcoin mining, but that hasn't happened in 2024, and people are going to keep getting onto the fact that you had these machines that weren't working optimally. Now it sounds like what you just said there, you've replaced all those machines. So for us now as mere mortals out here trying to understand it, it's like we should be seeing an even bigger jump in sort of October at then results come out. I mean, would that be your expectation, or do you think because of the nature of these strategies that you're in play, you're always going to have a gap between, or a significant gap between operational and actual?
I think there'll be a gap between deployed hash rate and average operating hash rate when there are periods of peak power strategy going on, which is typically the summer months. You're correct that in October, that is really behind us now. It's still hot in October in Texas. It's still, over 90 degrees a lot of the beginning days here, especially at the start of the month. But to answer your question, yes, because of the different work we have going on, you're going to continue to see progress month after month here. I'm not going to promise that October is going to be perfect, but I'm saying you are going to continue to see progress. And it's as a result of, like I said, taking some lessons learned from what we've done with this building of all M60Ss and, deployed them some elsewhere as well. And applying those lessons throughout the whole site where we have self-mining operations. So this is a key priority for us. Narrowing that gap is the priority for us, more so even than growing hash rate. I think you saw good progress month over month here, and I believe you'll continue to see that good progress. But it's not going to be perfect in October yet.
Okay. In terms of quick question on sort of like buildings F and G at Rockdale, those were your buildings that had that significant downtime with the winter storms back in the end of 2022, if I remember rightly. How are those as two buildings now operating as part of your whole portfolio?
Yeah, so those were the first two immersion buildings, to listeners that don't know, that we built back in 2021. At that time, that was the largest scale immersion deployment that had existed, and we got that up really fast. I think we made those development plans in July 2021, and the site started coming. The first miners in Building F started coming online in, I think, November 2021. So it was a push to get that done, and we were trying something big for the first time. So I think we've learned a lot from that process, and we learned a lot from those deployments, and that is what is informed a better operation at Corsicana. So, those buildings are operational. The broken dry coolers, etc., were replaced, and we got the bump of hash rate in from there. I think we'll continue to optimize for those buildings and their operational capability as well. But it's really a lot of lessons learned from that have made Corsicana better. And then, I talked about, hey, what we're doing at Rockdale, it's not just about changing miners. There's other things we're improving as well. There's some of that in building F&G that we can improve on as well to increase our overall hash rate utilization and get to that operational excellence that we're aiming to be at.
Okay. Are you able to highlight what the efficiency of the miners are at both sites? I mean, a lot of the miners now are putting that in their monthly update, but I think the last update I got from yourselves was, I think, 24.5 joules a terahash. And I'm assuming with all these new miners that you've been putting in, even in the last month where your installed hash rate's grown considerably, are you able to articulate roughly where your fleet efficiency is today?
Yeah, I think it's very fair to assume that the efficiency is improving. We don't disclose that figure on a monthly basis. Every time I come on Power and Mining Analysis, we add a new line to our monthly updates table, and it keeps getting more and
Can we
more
add that
lines
one?
on
Can
it.
we add that one to the monthly update?
So typically that figure we disclose on a quarterly basis. So we release our quarter or Q3 financials, pretty soon here. When we do our earnings call with that, when we put out our earnings deck for that, you'll see an updated efficiency figure there.
Okay. And while we're talking about Rockdale, and apologies, a lot of these are about, I mean, we like the Corsicana, we love the pictures, we know
It's
everything's
all a
working
part of
well,
the story. We got to talk
but the
about it
Rockdale
all.
is part of the story. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, we know about the 345 megawatts PPA down there. Are you able to significantly grow? I mean, you've got a 700 megawatt facility effectively. Are you able to significantly grow more hash rate there? I mean, you've got into Corsicana before effectively utilizing all that power, and now you're sort of like losing, hosting clients as they go along. Are you able to sort of like look at how you could grow that hash rate, or are you restricted on from a power perspective, what you can actually use there? Bear in mind what the power's available in that particular area. Bear in mind, BitDeer are a neighbor of yours, and you're probably using the power switch together. So from your perspective, I mean, it's a 700 megawatt facility. You've got a PPA for about half that amount, but you're using market rate at Corsicana. Can you grow Rockdale in the future to get you to where you need to be in terms of growth?
So to clarify, the terms are used differently. I'll tell you how we use the terms. A power purchase agreement is simply an agreement to purchase power. Um, if you if you want a fixed price for some of that, whether it's 24/7 hours, some days, etc., that's when you enter into a hedge that kind of is folded into the envelope of that PPA. So we have entered into numerous hedges at Rockdale in order to increase the amount of fixed power that we've had. We're not required to have a fixed price agreement in order to utilize that power. We've done that as a part of our strategy. That's what enables us to power down and earn power credits from selling that power, making that power available to the grid, and do things like participating in ancillary services where we are selling ERCOT the option to control our load, whether they want to keep it on or off. So those hedges are part of the power strategy, but not required. As you can see in our monthly update, we achieved a 3.5 cent cost of power at Rockdale, net of everything. It seems like that's important to clarify these days. It's net of all transmission fees, adders, tax, etc. Three and a
The
half
net.
cents per kilowatt hour, and net of power credits. 3.5 cents per kilowatt hour at Rockdale, and 3.5 cents per kilowatt hour at Corsicana. So, at Corsicana, we're merely just avoiding those high price periods and shutting off when we're at or above break-even price, and that's the power price that we've gotten. And we're pretty proud of what we're able to show here. 3.5 cents. There's market volatility in this power, so we had a very strong month in August with an all-in cost of 2.6 cents. We were able to earn more in power credits that month. September was still a good month, 3.5 cents. And, remember, that's still one of the peak period months here.
Yeah.
So the main point I want to make is having a hedge level power is not a limit to how much power we can use. That's simply how much is under a fixed price. Now, stepping back, a little history for everyone at the Rockdale facility. We acquired that facility when Riot acquired Windstone US in May of 2021. And through that acquisition, we inherited a number of hosting clients who at the time used most of that facility. And for a period of time, were the dominant use of power at that facility. As time has gone on, Riot increased its self-mining presence there, and a number of these contracts have been eliminated, and not all of those hosting customers are there anymore. So we're a little overbuilt to the power capacity side. Well, I'll just say, stay tuned. Hey, we're not going to let any power go to waste. We actually just got back from a all hands management meeting working on our 2025 plans. That's obviously, the year runs by quick. You're over 2024. feels like halfway through, then you're working on your 2025 plans. So we're putting together a entire game plan that when we're ready, we'll be sharing with the market of what we're doing across all of our facilities. You'll get more color and better of idea of what we're working on then.
Okay, and one final question, which is the flip side of that. Are you required to utilize 345 megawatts of power? If you don't,
No,
so say for instance, we only want to use 300 megawatts because that's the amount as we got on in place.
yeah. So
Do you get
I'll tell you.
penalized for using less than the actual PPA?
Um, we can use as much power as we want. For the amount of power that we use under 345 megawatts, we are either gaining or losing on the spread between those hedges and the market price. So that's how we earn power credits because we use less than the
Yeah,
345 megawatts, and then we are earning credits on the spread between the hedge price, which unfortunately it's confidential as part of those agreements,
yeah.
but it's a competitive price there in the range, and we're pocketing the spread between that and the market price of power at the time. Conversely, if the market price of power is less than our hedge price and we are using less than that amount, then we're losing that bid as well. So, ideally we're using over that 345 megawatts, all the time in order to not incur any kind of other additional costs. I mean, at times that has happened over the years. It's not a penalty, it's just a market-based result, and you see that reflected in our cost of power. And as Riot has always demonstrated a very strong cost of power, you can infer that that's never been a meaningful expense.
And just to clarify that when we talked, I think it was March or April when we did a podcast about the machines, I think you said 4x actually of machines that weren't working at optimum levels. The 31,500 micro BT machines that were forecast to go into the facility, they've replaced those machines now, have they?
They, as of September, yes, those replacements have been completed. But like I
Great.
said, there's been a number of
Yeah,
important lessons learned along the way, and we're going to continue to optimize and make some changes here, and we're going to get that site to exactly where it needs to be.
excellent. Thank you, Jason.
All right, Anthony, I'm jumping in now, buddy. Enough with your questions and enough with Rockdale. I'm going to Corsicana here, Jason. So we saw those phenomenal pictures come out. Truly incredible to see the scale of that facility and the progress since we've been there. So I have a two-parter for you. You alluded to the market pricing there. So I wanted to hear, in your opinion, now that you're into this journey, how you guys are feeling about that market price and that structure. It seems to be working out quite competitively, as you just talked about. And curious on the performance of the immersion tanks. I know you guys have two different styles there. Building B 1 and 2 have a different tank style, which we were actually able to see. So a little bit of, I guess, lessons learned and progress update on power strategy and immersion.
Yeah, so first, we're very proud of the progress that we made at that site over this year. You look at that picture and you see four buildings, 400 megawatts of capacity. Now, the fourth building is not complete yet, but at least structurally, you see all of that laid out, that substation completed, all this work being done. Everything you see in that picture was dirt at the start of this year. There's not buildings up at the start of this year. So we have made, and we're very proud, and I give so much credit to our team on the ground there, working around the clock in incredibly challenging weather conditions at time in order to make all that progress. So your first question was about power. Yeah, so that 3.5 cents that you saw at Corsicana for September, and then we had 3.9 cents in August. That is just taking the market price of power, and that's in some of the most challenging months of the year. As we get into the winter, the market price of power tends to decline a bit. We can see some volatility in the winter months sometime, but we kind of have the tougher months, at least historically, behind us. So we're really pleased with the result here. I think what this shows is the effectiveness of a mixed strategy. We have some hedged power and we have some market power as well. It's not to say we won't hedge power at Corsicana additionally. The market just has not been right for that, and especially the recent couple years. That may change going forward. We keep an eye on the market all the time, and there's some very interesting things that we've learned through building this power competency at Riot. We have a team that this is what they do full time, and they now have a lot of experience doing it at Riot's facilities over a number of years. And there's some pretty cool stuff that we're able to do here. And what's great about it is because of the flexibility of Bitcoin mining, we get to both improve our cost of power and support the grid. And that's a real part of Riot's story that we're going to focus on telling more and more over time, that Bitcoin mining is a tool for us to accumulate Bitcoin at a discount to the market price, depending on our cost efficiencies. And it is also a tool to strengthen energy grids and drive more generations. And we really want the public, the communities to understand that Bitcoin mining is such an important tool, especially in this new world where you need so much power generation to meet all these applications. Bitcoin mining is the answer. The next part of your question, Bryce, was on immersion. So at Corsicana, buildings A1 and A2, each 100 megawatts, so 200 megawatts, we used one immersion manufacturer for that. And in B1 and B2, we used another immersion manufacturer as well as different dry coolers on each. So we're trying out a bit of both. That's important. We want to see what different things, what works well, what doesn't, because then we're going to, eventually build more capacity on top of that. And we want some, good data points behind us in order to drive the best decisions. You asked specifically about B1 and B2. We love what we're seeing in there. I mean, aesthetically, those things look really cool, look super futuristic. They're driving really good cooling results as well. And it's because of that and because of other things that you're seeing those improved utilizations of hash rate at Corsicana.
Phenomenal. Yeah, you bring up a really interesting point about the importance of Bitcoin miners in the community. And we're starting to see stories about when miners leave communities or towns, some of the negative impacts there. So that's great. You guys are going to be telling that story. And just to give you a little extra points there, Jason, the design of these coolers, you guys, if you watched our tour video, they've actually got the Riot logo on the front, and it will change color based on the performance of the tank. So people can visually see if any of the miners are suboptimal or lower performing. So very cool design.
There's so much cool things about those tanks. Control panels, all sorts of information. So when it's all said and done, and if we get the manufacturer's permission, I look forward to showing everyone more about these different immersion designs, what's different, the ways that we're able to control it. It's super, super cool, and the guys on the ground love it for being able to have control of what's going on and make sure operations are running the way they should.
Amazing. Yeah, we had the team from Rosso on, the immersion experts, and they gave you guys a passing grade as well, Jason. They were excited about what they saw there.
Good
now,
to hear.
I did have one question about hash rate growth. I know there's a slide to go along with this. Can you give us a quick update over the next 3 months or the remainder of this year, what we can expect in terms of incremental growth?
Yeah, so the focus of our hash rate growth is at Corsicana. That's getting that's where the bulk of the growth is coming in, especially completing that final building B2 there. We have some other things going on at our other sites as well. So you're going to see continued substantial hash rate growth, especially as we touched on earlier, average operating hash rate growth over the next few months here. And the bulk of that is at Corsicana and, like projects at other sites as well. So we're doing that, but it's a dual focus because we are prioritizing uptime more than anything. So if I have to choose between, hey, do I want to throw on more miners right away, or do I want to get a better uptime? We're gonna err on that side of uptime and just take our time to make sure things are done correctly and we're achieving those good results. So I don't have a month by month breakdown for you. Our end of year goal is 36 exahash. The growth does not stop there. There's initiatives going on, like I said, at all sites still. So that's where we're aiming to be at that point in time. And then the work continues over into 2025 then. There's no break here, but yeah, a lot of growth on the horizon.
That's a good point. And with you mention about when we've seen those pictures today on the update and looking at building B2, the fabric being completed, that obviously leads you then to think about the rest of the site there, where you've got 600 megawatts of available capacity to grow out for your next year's targets. When we spoke in June, and we were there with a number of the Wall Street analysts down at the site to see Corsicana and its greatness. You basically said straight away at the start of the questions that HPC wasn't on the agenda at all for Riot platforms. We at that point in time, there was probably about 4 or 5 miners that were using the same strategy. They're going to be pure play miners. That number's dwindled down to 2 now. There's just yourselves and CleanSpark. And I'm just wondering, in the last 4 months, has Riot sat down and thought about, maybe if the opportunity was to come across, Marathon and Bitfarms have already hired people with a sort of like HPC background. They're looking at doing something in that space. And they were saying the same as you a similar period ago when we had them on the podcast. Are you still pure play, or actually, and I'm not saying, the CoreWeave, but if a CoreWeave deal came your way and said, look, you've got 600 megawatts there, you haven't started building, building C1 and C2, etc. Would you consider utilizing that power for this amazing contract that will deliver you, I don't know, $10 billion over the next 12 years? Would that change your mind, or do you think, actually, no, we're still in the Bitcoin mining game, one of the best in that?
Sure. So our focus remains on building the world's leading driven Bitcoin infrastructure platform. That's what we've kind of stated is our vision. And that is our vision because we want to be positioned for success alongside greater Bitcoin adoption here. Now, to achieve that, we've adopted a vertically integrated strategy. And that dates back 4 years now when we first started looking at, Bitcoin was $12,000-$14,000 a coin in 2020 at this point. And we were looking at building a portfolio of power assets so we would control our critical input to building infrastructure. The result of this vertically integrated strategy is probably the industry's strongest portfolio of grid-connected assets. This includes Kentucky, this includes Rockdale, and really, as we've spent a lot of time discussing, our crown jewel site in Corsicana that has a 1 gigawatt interconnect. Our strategy has always been to optimize the optionality of this power portfolio. So that historically has always been Bitcoin mining. And as we see it in the forefront right now, that continues to be Bitcoin mining. If the right deal comes across, especially with a deal like the Core Scientific CoreWeave deal, of course we would seriously consider that. That is a very attractive deal. I think the market has a lot of excitement around this because they're trying to see if a deal like that can be replicated. Can it be replicated? We once again have yet to see. If it can, we believe that Riot, with its additional 600 megawatts at Corsicana, is extremely well positioned to be in that market. So I think the market realizes that because we have recently started to begin receiving inbound interest around this capacity, and those are conversations that we've had. Now, the ethos of Riot, and this kind of goes back to Riot's beginning many, many years ago. In 2017, Riot became Riot Blockchain. We had a mining operation. Sometimes other companies were criticized for adding blockchain to their name, not having any real substantive business in that area. Riot, of course, had a mining operation. Riot, unfortunately, got lumped into that as well. The ethos of Riot, and this pertains to our growth as well, is we kind of do it and then we share it. I don't like the idea of misleading anyone, making any false promises. Hey, we're pivoting to AI HPC. Hey, we have this capacity. We're hiring a whole team and all of this. And that doesn't end up materializing. We haven't seen this fully take off yet. Like I said, we have received inbound interest. Obviously, the value of our assets has been recognized, and there have been conversations around that. And if the right deal comes through, especially like the CoreWeave and Core Scientific deal, we're going to take a look at that. But we're always going to be very cautious about how we talk about this and not lead anyone to believe, hey, we have this deal like this coming down and we believe we're going to get this, unless and until something more concrete is in place.
That's good to hear, because I think the answer that you gave in June was absolutely not, and now it's sort of like a case of we're not proactively going to, but if the right deal came across, we'd be stupid to sort of to look the other way
Well,
and say
I
that.
think over time we've expressed a skepticism that we'll for sure see a deal like that replicated.
Yeah,
And, that was a few months ago, and we've still yet to see a similar deal come
I
through.
think
So
you're absolutely right.
I I think
We need that second deal, don't we? Yeah.
Core nailed a good deal, and maybe someone comes out with something that's very good, but not as good as that, and we kind of see the market moving along. Um, like I said, we want to be cautious about how we message about this. We believe our portfolio power assets are incredibly valuable. What we have seen as the best way to monetize that has been Bitcoin mining, and our growth plans are all around Bitcoin mining. But of course, if the right deal comes through, if that does happen to materials with the right economics, yeah, you can bet we're going to seriously, consider that and work that into our plan in order to achieve our broader strategic vision.
So with that in mind, then, Jason, and now you've got the infrastructure, the shell of the infrastructure completed for 400 megawatts. When does the next building actually start to be um, positioned at Corsicana?
You stay tuned, Anthony. We got all the pencils and papers and rulers and
I'm trying to
everything. We
seize
got
it.
plans laid out all over the table. Don't worry. We're putting together the 2025 growth plans, and we have that concrete together, and we're ready to share that. We're going to lay the whole roadmap map out so that
I'm thinking
everyone.
more of a staffing perspective because you've got all those staff on site there, and you
Well,
don't want
it's
to
good.
switch off.
We don't need to. What's great about building that base of talent at site is, that doesn't scale up linearly as we build up to 1 gigawatt. We go from 400 megawatts to 1 gigawatt. The cost that scales linearly is power. That's it. All the other costs scale sublinearly a lot slower. So we got that base now, and it's not easy building a team from scratch. We of course we have the Rockdale facility a couple hours away, but we had to build a whole new team, hundreds of people from scratch here to make that site happen that fast. Now we have a strong team out there, and they are well equipped to continue building out there when the time is right as the plans come together.
And the barbecue is expanding as well, I imagine, with all those staff there. Yeah?
I would have to imagine a lot of hungry men and women out there.
You'll be the first to know when that next building goes up, Anthony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jason, now question for you. It's good you explained the change in naming convention too. Riot blockchain obviously has become Riot platforms. I think of it now as a power platform, really, and how do these companies utilize that platform? So interesting angle. Great answer there, Jason. Another question we had for you in light of the settlement with Bitfarms, you guys obviously have a very strong balance sheet, one of the biggest Bitcoin reserves of any publicly traded company. Now that you have reached a settlement agreement with Bitfarms, how does that change your M&A approach or stance moving forward now?
It doesn't really change anything. We continue to be very active in M&A. I'm proud of many of the teams that we have here at Riot. One of the teams I'm proud of is our corporate development team, which is combing through every deal on the market that comes to us that we're able to hunt out all the time. So, an example of that is, while we're building out Corsicana and while we had our initiative with Bitfarms ongoing, we did a transaction acquiring block mining all at the same time here. So there's a lot of different heads, pencils to the paper, getting work done in different departments and projects all the time. And you're right, with our balance sheet, with all the advantages that we have internally, we are really interested in new M&A opportunities to expand that portfolio of power capacity, expand our Bitcoin mining footprint, keep doing what we're doing, showing that very efficient power cost per energy. We want to leverage that up over the widest scale possible and give us that efficiency with mining Bitcoin and adding Bitcoin to our balance sheet here. So yeah, we're going to continue to be very active. We're looking at deals all the time. I'd be surprised if there was ever a deal that we didn't look at. We look at them with a lot of detail too. M&A is not easy. It can be easy if you just close your eyes and sign a sheet of paper. But if you want to do it right and want to make sure your company's protected, there's a lot of work that goes into it. So I'm very thankful that we built out the internal capability to do that. And I look forward to finding other acquisitions that create more optionality for us and bring great people under the Riot umbrella.
Yeah, I mean, with regards to, and we'll just touch on it very briefly, the Bitfarms settlement. In terms of the actions that you wanted to happen at the very start of this process, it looks like they've actually ticked quite a few of those boxes for you in terms of the board. Um, are you, I mean, with a significant shareholding, I mean, you are the biggest shareholder in Bitfarms. You're obviously having a watchful eye on things they're doing anyway, and I'm assuming you'll have a a voice to sort of like to feed into the company as and when you feel that's necessary.
Well, so you're right. In September, Riot and Bitfarms entered a settlement. Riot will not attempt to make any governance changes through the 2026 meeting. You're right. A substantial change has been made at the board here, and I think we're leaving this where both sides are pretty happy with the outcome. Whether or not another offer comes from Riot to Bitfarms, we have the option to do that. Whether that happens, I think, is yet to be seen.
So as a shareholder,
Oh, as a shareholder, yeah,
you'll
no,
still be
now,
conscious of what they're doing anyway, I suppose.
yeah, of course. Riot is a major shareholder of Bitfarms. We're watching that very closely. We're not an insider. We don't have, inside information. We don't have any outsized influence on the company. The one director that was appointed to the Bitfarms board, that's not our person. That's someone that we found as qualified. It's on the board, and we don't have any influence or relationship with them. So we are really just a shareholder like the rest of you all, just happen to be a larger one. And we're going to be watching that, very closely, and look forward to continued dialogue with their team, their management team, their board of directors moving forward here.
Excellent.
Phenomenal. Jason, I know we've covered a lot in the hour here. Obviously, a ton of things going on in the market and specifically at Riot. I wanted to pass the mic back to you, give you an opportunity to maybe touch on anything we've missed, any upcoming catalysts, and just thank you for your time today.
Well, I always appreciate getting on here, especially I think this timing worked out great that we could release a positive monthly update and I could be on here to talk about it. There's been a lot of hard work going on here. And I want to emphasize again, it's not just about growth, it's improving operational efficiency. We're showing substantial progress month over month here, and we're going to continue to show progress as all of these things take place. It doesn't happen, overnight to make those concrete long-term changes, but there's a lot of irons in the fire here, and I'm really excited of where we're going to end up at the end of 2025. Sorry, at the end of 2024. We're going to end 2024 with substantially more hash rate than we started the year with, some 200% more approximately. And we're going to end the year operating at much better efficiency than we ever have been. And, that positions us to show that operational excellence that we've been focused on achieving. And we made a lot of really great moves to do that. We like being transparent about what we're doing with growth. So, we've always taken the approach. We develop the growth plans. We share them in our decks in the market. And that brings up a point. A lot of times, I don't know how many retail investors or audience of your channel are always looking at the investor decks these companies put out. But Riot specifically, we put out a lot of good content in our investor deck. So really urge you to go to the investor section of our website, go to the presentations page, and you can see the earnings deck, the quarterly or the business updates, acquisition decks, investor day tours. There's a lot of information. We try to lay out different themes of things we're focused on and information that we want to share. So I'm excited to bake in our 2025 plans and start talking more about those when they're ready. A lot of cool things that are going on. And, I think I concluded with what our core focus has been for the past 4 years. That is acquiring power capacity and creating optionality for the company. Over those 4 years, we've gone from 0 megawatts to over 2 gigawatts of grid connected assets when fully completed. And that's one of the best portfolios of the industry. I think we've demonstrated a good competency in doing that. And that's something you're going to continue to see Riot focus on going forward.
Well, there you have it, guys. An action-packed hour directly from the CEO of Riot, Jason Les. We appreciate the time here, Jason. You know where to find us when these updates start rolling out. We'll be here watching those monthly production results with ears and eyes open. So thanks so much for your time. We'll see you soon. Guys, we will link the presentations in the video description below. If you have any questions, comments, thoughts for Jason, feel free to drop those as well. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. We'll see you here tomorrow.